Oh, goodness, Kate. I hope you're going okay now. Was that down to storms? Okay, outbreak time. When you replace your fridge, you need to be able to pull it at least away from the wall. Ah, yeah. Know what you mean. I've had to. I don't want to again if I can help it. Right. While the rest of the outbreak plays. Hi, chaps. I hope everyone's feeling fit and well today. Or at least, well. I'll put up with alive. The bar is on the floor at this stage. Luckily, your co-worker has a lot of experience with losing power. Yours was shut all night, so it's fine. Yes, indeed. Yeah, your fridge and freezer are usually good for at least 24 hours of power. Um, Obviously, freezer a little bit more tricky, and you're probably best off eating things quite quickly once the power comes back on. But yeah, if you lose power, open your fridge once and plan and make sure you've planned and taken out anything you are going to use then and there, and then don't touch it until you get the power back on. You did make a dress this weekend. Yes, saw the pictures. Rather good. I am not a dress person. I'm not a dressmaking person. Wish I was. Okay, and as the ad break draws to a close and the seasons change, this is the penultimate chapter. I'll let that sink in. Think about what they could do, what could happen with only one chapter left. Chapters left one. And we're coming back from an ad break in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back. Welcome, everybody, to Druttercup's Book Club. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch, you are very welcome here. So, this is the penultimate chapter of of a book that is not as nice and twee as I thought it would be. I have been misled by memories of childhood adaptations. You're not generally into dresses, but they are called for summer events. And oh, children, what fires are you going to set this week? Yeah. Frankly, if we get through without at least one more instance of arson, knowing that the children, far from having learned their lesson, now carry fire-making equipment with them on all occasions, just in case. Mummy. We may actually see the parents. I mean, we know they exist. We haven't really seen much about them. So, leave us see how we go. I have to drink, I am thirsty. Right. If you're sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. Well, I must say, Mother said, looking at the wishing carpet as it lay all darned and mended and backed with a shiny American cloth on the floor of the nursery, I must say I've never in my life bought such a bad bargain as that carpet. A soft "Oh!" of contradiction sprang to the lips of Cyril, Robert, Jane, and Anthea. Mother looked at them quickly and said, "Well, of course, I see you've mended it very nicely, and that was sweet of you, dears." "The boys helped too," said the dears, honourably. "But still, 22 and ninepence. It ought to have lasted for years. It's simply dreadful now. Well, never mind, darlings, you've done your best. I think we'll have cocoanut matting next time. A carpet doesn't have an easy life of it in this room, does it?" It's not our fault, Mother, is it, that our boots are really the reliable kind?" Robert asked the question more in sorrow than in anger. "No, dear, we can't help our boots," said Mother cheerfully, "but we might change them when we come in, perhaps. Just an idea of mine. I wouldn't dream of scolding on the very first morning after I've come home. Oh, my lamb, how could you?" The conversation was at breakfast, and the lamb had been beautifully good until everyone was looking at the carpet, and then it was for him but the work of a moment to turn a glass dish of syrupy blackberry jam upside down on his young head. It was the work of a good many minutes and several persons to get the jam off him again, and this interesting work took people's minds off the carpet, and nothing more was said just then about its badness as a bargain, and about what Mother hoped for from cocoanut matting. When the lamb was clean again, he had to be taken care of, while Mother rumpled her hair and inked her fingers. Oh no, yes, inked her fingers, and made her head ache over the difficult and twisted housekeeping accounts which Cook gave her on dirty bits of paper, and which were supposed to explain how it was that Cook had only fivepence halfpenny, and a lot of unpaid bills left out of all the money Mother had sent her for housekeeping. Mother was very clever, but even she could not quite understand the cook's accounts. That is actually a major point, isn't it, of course? Yes, linoleum has indeed been invented. That's Mother is just paying for it, but Cook is basically functioning as cook and housekeeper. Oh. Uh, oh, sorry, I had forgot to set myself to do not disturb on Twitch, on Discord. Okay. So yes, essentially, yeah, the cook has the household responsibilities, which in a larger household with more staff would be housekeeper. And Mother is very much counting the pennies. Not in penury, but very aware of how much she's been spending. Has linoleum been invented? It's not a wishing carpet, but it is sturdier. Yeah, I think it's been invented by this point. Okay, now you're making me doubt myself. Hang on, Mo. Da, 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 I'm on my non-secret keyboard. 1855. Yeah, it's been around for about 50 years. It has been mentioned, yes, but I was having a moment. Invented by English inventor Frederick Walton, who observed a rubber-like skin forming on linseed oil and developed a process to combine it with other materials like cork and resin to create a durable floor covering. Yes, unfortunately it's a mechanical keyboard, I'm sorry. There is an exhibition at the Hagley Museum and Library on the evolution of linoleum, which is a sentence I did not think I was ever going to say. Maybe I had kids like these scamps. Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's The heaviest thing in the world to cut. Easy once you get going, but ye gods, being neat. Not really designed for detail work. On the other hand, that does mean that that's when the whole craft of linoleum etchings, linoleum printing was created. Somebody looked at it and said, sod the floor. This is going to be easier to carve than wood. Right. I love the fact that the museum with the history of linoleum is in the US. For some reason that appeals to me. Okay. Where are we? The lamb was very glad to have his brothers and sisters to play with him. I bet he's thrilled. He had not forgotten them a bit, handy, and he had made them play all the old exhausting games. Whirling Worlds, where you swing the baby round and round by his hands, and Leg and Wing, where you swing him from side to side by one ankle and one wrist. There's also Climbing Vesuvius. In this game, the baby walks up you, and when he's standing on your shoulders, you shout as loud as you can, which is the rumbling of the burning mountain, and then tumble him gently onto the floor and roll him there, which is the destruction of Pompeii. All the same, I wish we could have decide what we'd better say next time Mother says anything about the carpet, said Cyril, breathlessly ceasing to be a burning mountain. Well, you talk and decide, said Anthea. Here, you lovely ducky lamb, come to Panther and play Noah's Ark. The lamb came with his pretty hair all tumbled and his face all dusty from the destruction of Pompeii, and instantly became a baby snake, hissing and wriggling and creeping in Anthea's arms as she said, I love my little baby snake, he hisses when he is awake, he creeps when he's such a wiggly creep, he wiggles even in his sleep. Rocky, said the lamb, and showed all his little teeth. So Anthea went, I love my little crocodile, I love his truthful, toothful smile. It's so wonderful and wide, I like to see it from inside. Well, you see, Cyril was saying, it's just the old bother. Mother can't believe the real truth about the carpet, and... You speak sooth, Cyril, remarked the phoenix, coming out from the cupboard where the black beetles lived, and the torn books, and the broken slates, and the odd pieces of toy that had lost the rest of themselves. Now hear the wisdom of Phoenix, the son of the Phoenix. There's a society called that, said Cyril. Where is it, and what is a society? Asked the bird. It's a sort of joined up together load of people, a sort of brotherhood, a kind of, well, something very like your temple, you know, only quite different. I take your meaning, said the Phoenix. I would fain see these calling themselves son of the Phoenix. But what about your words of wisdom? Wisdom is always welcome, said the Phoenix. Pretty Polly, remarked the lamb, stretching his hands towards the golden speaker. The Phoenix modestly retreated behind Robert, and Anthea hastened to distract the attention of the lamb by murmuring, I love my little baby rabbit, but oh, he has a dreadful habit of paddling out among the rocks and soaking both his bunny socks. I don't think you care about the Sons of the Phoenix, really, said Robert. I've heard that they don't do anything fiery, they only drink a great deal. Much more than those other people, because they drink lemonade and fizzy things, and the more you drink of those, the more good you get. In your mind, perhaps, said Jane, but it wouldn't be good in your body. You'd get too balloony. Phoenix yawned. Look here, said Anthea, I really have an idea. This isn't like a common carpet. It's very magic indeed. Don't you think if we put tacho on it and then gave it a rest, the magic part of it might grow, like hair's supposed to do? It might, said Robert, but I would think paraffin would do as well. Oh, dear God. Oh, help. Oh, yes, Robert, put paraffin on the carpet. I'm sure there's something you hadn't set fire to yet in this book. At any rate, as far as the smell goes, and that seems to be the great thing about tacho. But with all its faults, Anthea's idea was something to do, and they did it. It was Cyril who fetched the tacho bottle from their father's washhand stand, but the bottle had not much in it. As a recovered fizzy drink addict, you think you bloat in more ways than one. Yeah. We mustn't take it all, Jane said, in case father's hair begins to come off suddenly. If he hadn't anything to put on it, it might all drop off before Eliza had time to get round to the chemist for another bottle. It would be dreadful to have a bald father, and it would be all our fault. Okay. Bald father? Not really that much of a problem. Wouldn't have thought. And wigs are very expensive, I believe, said Anthea. Look here, leave enough in the bottle to wet father's head all over with, just in case any emergency emerges. And let's make up with paraffin. I expect it's the smell that does the good, really, and the smell's exactly the same. So a small teaspoon of the tacho was put on the edges of the worst darn in the carpet, and rubbed carefully into the roots of the hairs of it, and all the parts that were not where there was not enough tacho all the parts that there was not enough tacho for had paraffin rubbed into them with a piece of flannel. Then the flannel was burned. Your father's bald and you all get to yell at him to wear a hat when he goes outside. Are you in a particularly sunny area? Or is it just that you don't like the look of his head? A couple of people I know who have used the retreating hairline to go for, how should we put this, the full Picard. It's how cold they've got that surprises them. Yes, and of course, indeed, arson, Hiram. Why are you burning the flannel? Really? On the other hand, this all opened because they were carrying half a jam jar of paraffin in the open and flung it on firewood. It made a gay flame which delighted the phoenix and the lamb. How often, said Mother, opening the door, how often am I to tell you that you are not to play with paraffin? What have you been doing? We burnt a paraffiny rag, Anthea answered. Ah, fair enough. Had skin cancer from a mole in his head when he was a teen. He was a lifeguard before they realised baby oil was bad for your skin. Or at least not, basically, sunscreen. Which is coming back. Wellness influencers are doing the whole, you just need baby oil. And then you can be in the sun and it will be fine. Because sunscreens are toxic. Yeah, don't do that. I mean, you know that, but yeah, don't do that. These kids were superheroes, they'd be the fire kids. If they were supervillains, they would be the arson army. I like that. That appeals to me. Oh, shit. It was no use telling Mother what they'd done to the carpet. Oh, forbid. Zinc oxide all the way, indeed, for sunscreen. Yes, you want absolute sunblock if you've got any vulnerability in that direction at all. I'm bad at it. I keep forgetting. Back to 50 on the face, but then I'll go and forget I have back of the neck and arms. It was no use telling Mother what they'd done to the carpet. She did not know it was a magic carpet, and no one wants to be laughed at for trying to mend an ordinary carpet with lamp oil. Well, don't do it again, said Mother. And now away with melancholy. Father has sent a telegram. Look. She held it out, and the children, holding it by its yielding corners, read, Box for kiddies at Garrick. Stalls for us, Haymarket. Meet Charing Cross, 6:30. That means, said Mother, that you're going to see the water babies all by your happy selves. And Father and I will take you and fetch you. Give me the lamb, dear, and you and Jane put clean lace in your red evening frocks, and I shouldn't wonder if you found they wanted ironing. This paraffin smells ghastly. Run and get out your frocks. The frocks did want ironing, wanted it rather badly as it happened, for being of tomato-coloured Liberty silk, They had been found very useful for tableau vivants when the red dress was required for Cardinal Richelieu. And they were very nice tableaux, these, and I wish I could tell you about them, but one cannot tell everything in a story. You would have been specially interested in hearing about the tableau of the princes in the tower, when one of the pillows burst, and the youthful princes were so covered with feathers that the picture might well have been called Michaelmas Eve or Plucking the Geese. Ironing the dresses and sewing the lace in occupied some time, and no one was dull because there was the theatre to look forward to, and also the possible growth of hairs on the carpet, for which everyone kept looking anxiously. They do indeed have Liberty silks. As I said, this is not an impoverished family, not upper class. They're not horribly wealthy, but they're not impoverished. They've got the nice dress each. By 4 o'clock, Jane was almost sure that several hairs were beginning to grow. The phoenix perched on the fender, and its conversation as usual was entertaining and instructive, like school prizes are said to be, but it seemed a little absent-minded and even a little sad. "Don't you feel well, Phoenix dear?" asked Anthea, stooping to take an iron off the fire. "I am not sick," replied the golden bird, with a gloomy shake of the head, "but I am getting old." "Why, you've hardly been hatched any time at all." "Time," remarked the phoenix, "is measured by heartbeats. I'm sure the palpitations I've had since I've known you are enough to blanch the feathers of any bird." "But I thought you lived 500 years," said Robert, "and you've hardly begun this set of years. Think of all the time that's before you." "Time," said the phoenix, "is, as you are probably aware, merely a convenient fiction. There's no such thing as time. I've lived in these 2 months at a pace which generously counterbalances 500 years of life in the desert. I am old, I am weary, I feel as if I ought to lay my egg and lay me down to my fiery sleep. But unless I'm careful, I shall be hatched again instantly, and that is a misfortune which I really do not think I could endure. But do not let me intrude these desperate personal reflections on your youthful happiness. What is the show at the theatre tonight? Wrestlers? Gladiators? A combat of camel leopards and unicorns?" "I don't think so," said Cyril. "It's called The Water Babies, and if it's like the book, there isn't any gladiating in it. There are chimney sweeps and professors, and a lobster and an otter and a salmon, and children living in the water." "It sounds chilly." The phoenix shivered and went to sit on the tongs. "I don't suppose there will be real water," said Jane, "and theatres are very warm and pretty, with a lot of golden lamps. Wouldn't you like to come with us?" "I was just going to say that," said Robert in injured tones. "Only I know how rude it is to interrupt. Do come, Phoenix, old chap, it will cheer you up, and make you laugh like anything. Mr. Borgia always makes ripping plays. You ought to have seen Shock-headed Peter last year." "Your words are strange," said the phoenix, "but I will come with you. The revels of this Borgia of whom you speak may help me forget the weight of my years." So that evening the phoenix snugged inside the waistcoat of Robert Eaton's, a very tight fit it seemed both to Robert and the phoenix, and was taken to the play. Robert had to pretend to be cold at the glittering many-mirrored restaurant where they ate to dinner, with father in evening dress with a very shiny white shirt front, and mother looking lovely in her grey evening dress, that changes into pink and green when she moves. "Oh, that's lovely. It's going to be a shot silk." Robert pretended he was too cold to take off his greatcoat, and so sat sweltering through what would otherwise have been a most thrilling meal. He felt he was a blot on the smart beauty of the family, and he hoped the phoenix knew what he was suffering for its sake. Of course, we are all pleased to suffer for the sake of others, but we like them to know it, unless we're at the very best and noblest kind of people, and Robert was just ordinary. Father was full of jokes and fun, and everyone laughed all the time, even with their mouths full, which is not manners. Robert thought father would not have been quite so funny about his keeping his overcoat on if father had known all the truth, and there Robert was probably right. When dinner had finished to the last grape and the last paddle in the finger glasses, for it was a really truly grown-up dinner, The children were taken to the theatre, guided to a box close to the stage, and left. Father's parting words were, "Now don't you stir out of this box, whatever you do. I shall be back before the end of the play. Be good and you'll be happy. This zone torrid enough for the abandonment of greatcoats, Bobs? No? Well then, I should say you were sickening for something, mumps or measles or thrush or teething. Goodbye." I find it hard to believe that he would have thrush. Not impossible, but very unlikely. I'm not seeing any kind of potential disaster of the kids and the Phoenix left unattended at play. It will all go well. Oh, those were upside down. He went, and Robert was at last able to remove his coat to mop his perspiring brow, and release the crushed and dishevelled Phoenix. Robert had to arrange his damp hair at the looking-glass at the back of the box, and the Phoenix had to preen its disordered feathers for some time before either of them was fit to be seen. They were very, very early. When the lights went up fully, the Phoenix, balancing itself on the gilded back of a chair, swayed in ecstasy. You think these parents are only parent because birth control was illegal at the time? You'd have thought they'd have figured out what caused it. I mean, what do we think the lamb is going to grow up to with these kids as his older siblings and examples? And they take care of the kids, but boy, they are not involved. No, they are not. I wouldn't say negligent, per se. Maybe they're just encouraging independence? And yet. Okay, well. "How fair a scene is this," it murmured. "How far fairer than my temple, or have I guessed right? Have you brought me hither to lift up my heart with emotions of joyous surprise? Tell me, my Robert, is it not that this is my true temple, and the other was but a humble shrine frequented by outcasts?" Oh, the lamb is a serial killer. You reckon that's it? The lamb grows up to be a serial killer. When was Jack the Ripper found? No, 1800s. I don't know about outcasts, said Robert, but you can call this your temple if you like. Hush, the music's beginning. I'm not going to tell you about the play. As I said before, one can't tell everything, and no doubt you saw the water babies yourself. If you did not, it was a shame, or rather a pity. What I must tell you is that though Cyril and Jane and Robert and Anthea enjoyed it as much as any children possibly could, the pleasure of the Phoenix was far, far greater than theirs. "This is indeed my temple," it said again and again. "What radiant rites, and all to do honour to me." The songs in the play it took to be hymns in its honour. The choruses were choric songs in its praise. The electric lights, it said, were magic torches lighted for its sake, and it was so charmed with the footlights that the children could hardly persuade it to sit still. But when the limelight was shown, it could contain its approval no longer. It flapped its golden wings and cried in the voice that could be heard all over the theatre, "Well done, my servants! Ye have my favour and my countenance." Little Tom on the stage stopped short in what he was saying. A deep breath was drawn by hundreds of lungs, every eye in the house turned to the box where the luckless children cringed, and most people hissed or said "Shh" or "Turn them out." This is sounding more and more like the Phoenix has dementia. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. The Phoenix is getting very old. And if not dementia, then the natural decline rather than falling off a cliff. It's just accelerated in him on the grounds that, he has been alive for 2 months as far as they're concerned. But he has lived he's lived much time from his perspective. They've stressed him into old age. Then the play went on, and an attendant presently came to the box and spoke wrathfully. "It wasn't us, indeed it wasn't," said Anthea earnestly. "It was the bird." The man said, "Well, then, they must keep their bird very quiet." "Disturbing everyone like this," he said. "It won't do it again," said Robert, glancing imploringly at the golden bird. "I'm sure it won't." "You have my leave to depart," said the Phoenix gently. "Well, he's a beauty and no mistake," said the attendant. "Only I'd cover him up during the acts. It upsets the performance." And he went. "Don't speak again, there's a dear," said Anthea. "You wouldn't like to interfere with your own temple, would you?" So now the Phoenix was quiet, but it kept whispering to the children. It wanted to know why there was no altar, no fire, no incense, and became so excited and fretful and tiresome that 4 at least of the party of 5 wished deeply that it had been left at home. Maybe the Phoenix would prefer to live in the theatre, could see shows most night and Sunday matinees. Yep. Maybe it ought to hang out with a troop of fire eaters, travel circuses. What happened next was entirely the fault of the Phoenix. It was not in the least the fault of the theatre people, and no one could ever understand afterwards how it did happen. Oh God. Oh no, I haven't pre-read this chapter, and I am concerned. No one, that is, except the guilty bird itself and the 4 children. The Phoenix was balancing itself on the gilt back of the chair, swaying backwards and forwards and up and down, as you may see your own domestic parrot do. I mean the grey one with the red tail. All eyes were on the stage, where the lobster was delighting the audience with that gem of a song, "If you can't walk straight, walk sideways." When the Phoenix murmured warmly, "No altar, no fire, no incense," and then before any of the children could even begin to think of stopping it, it spread its bright wings and swept around the theatre, brushing its gleaming feathers against delicate hangings and gilded woodwork. "Here comes the fire." It seemed to have made but one circular wing sweep, such as you may see a gull make over grey water on a stormy day. Next moment it was perched again on the chair back, and all round the theatre where it had passed little sparks shone like tinsel seeds, then little smoke wreaths curled up like growing plants, little flames opened like flower buds. People whispered, and then people shrieked. "Fire! Fire!" The curtain went down, the lights went up. "Fire!" cried everyone, and made for the doors. "A magnificent idea," said the Phoenix complacently. "An enormous altar, fire supplied free of charge. Doesn't the incense smell delicious?" The only smell was the stifling smell of smoke, burning silk, or scorching varnish. The little flames had opened now into great flowers. Not flamethrowers, different thing altogether. The people in the theatre were shouting and pressing towards the doors. "Oh, how could you?" cried Jane. "Let's get out." "Father said stay here," said Anthea, very pale and trying to speak in her normal voice. "He didn't mean to stay and be roasted," said Robert. "No boys on burning decks for me, thank you." "Not much," said Cyril, and he opened the door of the box. But a fierce waft of smoke and hot air made him shut it again. It was not possible to get out that way. They looked over the front of the box. They climbed down? It would be possible, certainly, but would they be much better off? "Look at the people," moaned Andrea. We couldn't, Anthea. We couldn't get through." And indeed the crowd round the doors looked as thick as flies in the jam-making season. "I wish we'd never seen the Phoenix," cried Jane. Even at that awful moment Robert looked round to see if the bird had overheard a speech which, however natural, was hardly polite or grateful. The Phoenix was gone. "Look here," said Cyril. "I've read about fires in papers. I'm sure it's all right. Let's wait here, as Father said." "Oh, God." "Cyril, who are you, Johnny Storm?" "Oh, boy." And it's better I ought to have content warned for idiocy and fire. On the other hand, the water babies can be a bit dull. In my humble. This would have livened it up. "We can't do anything else," said Anthea bitterly. Look here, said Robert, I'm not frightened. No, I'm not. The Phoenix has never been a skunk yet, and I'm certain it'll see us through somehow. I believe in the Phoenix. The Phoenix thanks you, oh Robert, said a golden voice at his feet, and there was the Phoenix itself on the wishing carpet. Quick, it said, stand on those portions of the carpet that are truly antique and authentic, and a sudden jet of flames stopped its words. Alas, the Phoenix had unconsciously warmed to its subject, and in the unintentional heat of the moment had set fire to the paraffin with which that morning the children had anointed the carpet. It burned merrily. The children tried in vain to stamp it out. They had to stand back and let it burn itself out. When the paraffin had burned away, it was found it had taken with it all the darns of Scotch heather mixture fingering. Only the fabric of the old carpet was left, and that was full of holes. What have you read about those fires, buddy? Because the miraculous survival ain't the common case. Oh, Cyril. Come, said the Phoenix, I'm cool now. The 4 children got on to what was left of the carpet. Very careful they were not to leave a leg or a hand hanging over one of the holes. It was very hot. The theatre was a pit of fire. Everyone else had got out. Jane had to sit on Anthea's lap. Home, said Cyril, and instantly the cool draught from under the nursery door played upon their legs as they sat. They were all on the carpet still, and the carpet was lying in its proper place on the nursery floor, as calm and unmoved as though it had never been to the theatre or taken part in a fire in its life. 4 long breaths of deep relief were instantly breathed. The draught, which they had never liked before, was for the moment quite pleasant, and they were safe, and everyone else was safe. The theatre had been quite empty when they left. Everyone was sure of that. They presently found themselves all talking at once. Somehow none of their adventures had given them so much to talk about. None other had seemed so real. Did you notice, they said, and do you remember? What are their parents going to think? Well, oh boy. When suddenly Anthea's face turned pale under the dirt. I think the kids died. Yep. Anthea's face suddenly when suddenly Anthea's face turned pale under the dirt which had collected on it during the fire. Oh, she cried, Father and Mother and Father. Oh, how awful, they'll think we burned to cinders. Oh, let's go this minute and tell them we aren't. We should only miss them, said the sensible Cyril. Well, you go then, said Anthea, or I will. Only do wash your face first. Mother will be sure to think you're burned to a cinder if she sees you as black as that, and she'll faint or be ill or something. Oh, I wish we'd never got to know that Phoenix. Hush, said Robert. It's no use being rude to the bird. I suppose it can't help its nature. Perhaps we'd better wash too. Now I come to think of it, my hands are rather. No one had noticed the Phoenix since it had bidden them to step on the carpet, and no one noticed that no one had noticed. All partially clean, and Cyril was just plunging into his greatcoat to go and look for his parents. He, and not unjustly, called it looking for a needle in a bundle of hay, when the sound of Father's latchkey in the front door sent everyone bounding up the stairs. Are you all safe? Cried Mother's voice. Are you all safe? And in the next moment she was kneeling on the linoleum of the floor, so yes, it had been invented, trying to kiss 4 damp children at once, and laughing and crying by turns, while Father stood looking on and saying he was blessed or something. You'd think they would have learned not to say wish out loud. I'm reminded of a line from BBC film Bernard and the Genie, delivered by Lenny Henry as a genie, which was something along the lines of, please use the same caution around the words I wish as you would please castrate me. And I think that lesson would be well learned by the kids. But how did you guess we'd come home? Said Cyril later, when everyone was calm enough for talking. Well, it was rather a rum thing. We heard the garrick was on fire, and of course we went straight there, said Father briskly. Are they still on the carpet? Maybe? We couldn't find you, of course. and we couldn't get in, but the fireman told us everyone was safely out, and then I heard a voice in my ear say, "Still Anthea, Robert and Jane," and something touched me on the shoulder. It was a great yellow pigeon, and it got in the way of my seeing who'd spoken. It fluttered off, and then someone said in the other ear, "They're safe at home." And when I turned again to see who it was speaking, hanged if there wasn't that confounded pigeon on my other shoulder. Um, hey Chrono, how are the little criminals faring? Well, you know the Garrick Theatre? I'm hoping that they're insured by the guys who turned up when the Phoenix was looking for a temple, because it kind of is on fire. Possibly it's just less on fire and now more wrecked. I think it wouldn't have been so bad had the carpet not been repaired using a combination of hair growth oil and paraffin. Decisions were made. I'm not saying they were good decisions. If you remember correctly, though, that's not unusual for the Garrick. Yeah, I don't think it's the first time. I don't even think it's the second. Rebuilding far quicker in those days because what are safety standards? It was a great yellow pigeon. And okay, when I turned again to see who it was who was speaking, hanged if there wasn't that confounded pigeon on my other shoulder. Dazed by the fire, I suppose. Your mother said it was the voice of. I said it was the bird that spoke, said Mother, and so it was. At least I thought so then. It wasn't a pigeon. It was an orange-covered coloured cockatoo. I don't care who it was that spoke. It was true, and you're safe. Mother began to cry again, and Father said bed was a good place after the pleasures of the stage. So everyone went there. Robert had to talk to the Phoenix that night. "Oh, very well," said the bird, when Robert had said what he felt. "Didn't you know that I have power over fire? Do not destroy yourself. I, like my high priests in Lombard Street, can undo the work of flames. Kindly open the casement." It flew out. That was why the papers next day said the fire at the theatre had done less damage than had been anticipated. As a matter of fact, it had done none, for the Phoenix spent the night in putting things straight. How the management accounted for this, and how many of the theatre officials still believe that they were mad on that night, will never be known. Next day, Mother saw the burnt holes in the carpet. "It caught where it was paraffiny," said Anthea. "I must get rid of that carpet at once," said Mother. But what the children said in sad whispers to each other as they pondered over last night's events was, "We must get rid of that Phoenix." So, end of chapter. We only have 15 pages of the book left. I'm not even sure how much of that is end credits. Oh gosh, okay. So actually we only have 9 pages, if that. What time is it? It is only 20 past 8. Would people like me to continue and finish this now, rather than waiting for next week and having a very short one? Well, the Phoenix came with the carpet, only fair they depart together. Yeah, if people are around. Okay. And then, am I playing on the game stream? No, Chrono, I've got work to do. No game stream for me tonight. You kind of want to wait for next week. Okay, in that case, I tell you what, we will do that next week. Because I really do have quite a lot of work, I've just remembered. Thanks for the reminder. And we will get the last chapter in. And also, I will indeed work out roughly what crimes the children have committed over the course of the book. And then that will make one for one whole stream, I think. Rather than a bit and then basically leaving it really short. I hope that's okay with everybody. You're okay, you're excited for that, okay. I'm very glad you guys have heard that. Things are getting more and more destructive. I think the Phoenix is suffering from flaming incompetence? No, incontinence. Crimes counter. Yep. I'm going to have to go through the whole book, aren't I? And I will notch up what crimes have been committed roughly. I make no promises because I am not a lawyer, nor am I a police officer. But I can at least give ideas. And it will indeed be based on today. It's okay, Kate. If I was working too hard, I wouldn't have a load of work left to do. Sounds like the worst case of UTI ever. What, flaming incontinence? Yes. Yes, I think it would. So, thank you very much. Wednesday around 5, me and Chrono are going to be back to streaming. Screaming? Oh dear, there's Freudian slip. Streaming Project Zomboid. And then Thursday, I will be back. I think we're getting towards endgame on the Thaumaturge. I don't think we're right there yet, but we are definitely running out of quests. And anyway, I've got the complete wardrobe. So I reckon I've probably got maybe 2 sessions more of that, unless it suddenly ends abruptly. So, crimes and the last chapter next week. And after that, I will move on and do a reading of the children's adaptation of Dracula, the Ladybird version, which I am fascinated to see how much they've cut and how they've adapted it. Could be a scream, no pun intended. So thank you very much, and I will bid you all a very good night.